How's it going, everybody? Bryan, Alvarez, and Dave Meltzer here, Wrestling Observer Radio. It is October 22nd, 2017, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. Lots to get into here today. TLC has taken place this afternoon. We have got all of the PWG news. Dave is surviving over there. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing okay. I still got this terrible cough, but aside from that, I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually doing pretty good overall.
It literally didn't even start until we started doing the show.
No, I think that I'm allergic to this phone. But, no, I mean, I saw another tremendous PWG show, which we'll talk about later, since there's so much news going on all over the place. By the way, did you hear anything from Japan or anything like that? Because I know that All Japan had a big show earlier today, and I know somebody told me that there was a DDT show today that had an incredible tag team match. That was the word that was going around at the PWG show. So lots, and I know Arena Mexico, I heard, was one of the best Fridays of the year, which I didn't see, but that's what I heard. And the crowd was way up. And Mystico and Volador Christico and Volador had a really big match. And I think that the crowd was I think they booed Christico, but I was told that I have to at some point watch that match too. And there were a couple other matches on the show that I heard were really good. So yeah, a big freaking weekend, and obviously the WWE news is the biggest news. So get into all that stuff.
Well, let's start. We got TLC today, and as noted, lots of big changes to the card. Kurt Angle's replacing Roman Reigns. The Bray Wyatt match off. Now it's Finn Balor and AJ Styles. We talked about all of this yesterday. Obviously, with Roman out, Raw was going to be built around the Shield, and he's not going to be there, so they're rewriting that show, and apparently it's going to be a big show.
Apparently, yeah, coming off of what they do here. So, normally in a situation like this, when you have a lot of substitutions, the rule of thumb is to put the faces over. Not necessarily in every match, but in the match with the substitution. When you have a 3-on-5, it would be really flat if Kurt Angle returned and the Shield lost, or the Shield team lost in this situation. It's, I'm kind of a little bit, I know everyone's got everything under control in a sense, and that, I'm not going to say anything that no one in WWE doesn't know, but I do worry about Kurt being in there with Seth Rollins and Ambrose as a team in a TLC match. If it was a regular match, I wouldn't be so worried, but in a TLC match, because Kurt's going to want to uphold his third of that match. And, I just worry. Kurt's almost 49 years old, and obviously, he hasn't wrestled in a long, long time. And even if he can, I'm sure physically he can do it, but that doesn't mean he can do it without hurting himself. So that's, I expect the match will be great. I don't know that it will be as great as it would have been with the Shield reunion. But I give them credit. They're giving people something big. You take away the Shield reunion, which was out of their control, and anything else. They could have asked. They did ask other people, but it ended up being Kurt. So that's the deal. And obviously, Finn Balor and AJ is a really interesting match as far as the finish goes, because AJ is coming off that stupid loss to Corbin that never should have happened, but he's the number one contender for Jinder. Finn Balor is, in theory, being groomed for Lesnar. So this is a time when neither of them can lose, but one of them should lose, because, in this match, you don't have time limits. Honest to God, this is where time limits would have been, because I think if they had done a 30-minute time limit, and done a 30-minute draw, that they would have torn the frickin' house down and nobody would have complained that it was a draw, because they would have understood everything, and they're both baby faces. And, babyface ends up in a draw in an incredible match like that. That's not a negative. So, unfortunately, because they don't have time limits, you either do a screwed finish, which would hurt the match, or you do or one guy wins, and you can pick either one. I would guess that the way they consider it, it's Balor's home turf, so Balor, I guess, would be the favorite. I don't know.
Well, you got to remember also that Survivor Series is not AJ Styles. It's Brock Lesnar and Jinder. So depending on when they actually do that AJ Styles match, I mean, if that's not going to be done until like December, I mean, he could lose here. If it's going to be a TV match between now and Survivor Series,
but he shouldn't. And they may do, and they may start doing. Well, I mean, they won't start doing the. Well, they did. They started the AJ and Jinder program last week. They already started it.
He did do the challenge, so.
Yeah,
I mean that would mean it would be. Thing is, it would be a TV match then, and then if you do Brock Lesnar and Jinder at Survivor Series, I mean, who does Jinder face in December, in January, and so on?
I figured December and January is probably AJ until John Cena comes back, and then it would probably be John Cena.
So the odds, by the way, for the show here, the favorite, obviously, in the opening match, Sasha Banks over Alicia Fox. Finn Balor is now -230 versus AJ Styles. AJ is +160, so Finn is the favorite right now in that match.
Yeah. I mean, if I was going to pick one because it's the Raw brand, and if you're asking me who's going to go over, I would probably go with Finn because their mentality is that if it's on a different brand, it doesn't count, even though I don't know how it doesn't in this situation. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, this really was the time for a draw.
Kendrick and Gallagher are the favorites for the tag match. We have Enzo as a favorite against Kalisto, -320.
Okay. So, Enzo, yeah, I mean, I'm figuring Enzo probably wins that title. He'll win soon either way. Kendrick, yeah, I mean, I could see Kendrick and Gallagher winning, considering that Swan and Cedric Alexander won the TV matches, as I recall. So yeah.
Asuka, obviously the favorite, -2750.
Wow, I mean, like obviously she's the favorite, but if it's -2750, that's already that's a big one. That's pretty big. I mean, it'd be insane for her not to win. I mean, I think that's got to be a lock.
And the Shield is -290, and heels are +210, and then Alexa Bliss -290 over Mickie James. So there you go, early odds.
I mean, Alexa shouldn't lose to Mickie James. I don't think. I mean, it's a women's title. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can do anything you want with the women's title. It's not like a make or break, but, it just, I mean, Mickie James hasn't been pushed that much. It just feels like Mickie James is just being put in as a bridge because they've already gone through everybody else and they haven't gotten to Nia Jax yet. And God only knows when that's going to be. But, I mean, it could be as early as Survivor Series. But Survivor Series, they may do a multiple person match, and then they may not have time to do that until the Rumble, because I think December pay-per-view is a SmackDown pay-per-view. I think there's only one December pay-per-view, right?
I will check. Any update on the illnesses?
Yeah, well, so the shots that everyone got were for rubella, measles, and mumps. So that's what everyone got shot for. Now, meningitis can, I believe, stem from some of that stuff. So, that's what everyone, has gotten their immunity, shot for. So, as far as when people are coming back, I do not know. I don't know that anyone knows. I don't think anyone knows how quickly everyone's going to be, healed up from, or whatever, healthy from everything. So as far as when Roman comes back, I know some people have asked, is Roman Bray Wyatt going to be back for the European tour? And it's 2 weeks away, and I don't know the answer. I'm sure they would hope for it.
Okay, at this point, unless they add something, there is no pay-per-view.
Actually, it's less than 2 weeks. Actually, it's less than 2 weeks away.
Yeah, no Raw pay-per-view in December. Survivor Series November, Clash of Champions on the 17th. So Kevin Owens.
You mean December 17th?
Yeah, December 17th.
Boston, right? Yeah.
Clash, yeah.
It's Boston. Yeah.
Kevin Owens update.
Yeah, so it's a family situation that he went home. He tweeted about it. And I hope for the best for him, because whenever you hear someone rushing home for a family situation, it's probably not a good thing. And I know everyone loves their family, so I hope for the best for him for this for the thing. And AJ, AJ worked tonight in Chile, so that's a hell of a haul.
That's right. And also working tonight was Triple H.
I don't know. I think he's working tomorrow.
Oh no, Sunday. You're right, Sunday.
Yeah. So the deal was, I guess that because the promoters paid so much for the show in Chile, and I know tonight's show was a huge house, that the local promoters, I think the local promoters in Chile may have bought the show. I'm not positive of that, but that's what I kind of been led to believe. And if that's the case, losing both AJ and Owens was kind of a bad thing. So I think that's one of the reasons they did the make good, is because on the Sunday show, like Owens is one of those things that happened and you can't really do it. But AJ missing the Santiago Chile show tomorrow, was their choice. So having Triple H come in and do the make good, that's, I guess that they probably had felt some pressure and need to do that. But however you want to say it, I've seen promotions, including WWE, many times put in a situation and the replacement is not always, a bigger star, even the same level star or as good a match. But at least in this situation, I think that in all cases, the replacement is in, many ways. I'm not sure that Kurt is necessarily a bigger star than Roman Reigns right now, but Kurt wrestling right now is in its own way, because Kurt's first WWE match in 11 years. So that's a real big deal, and a lot of people second guessing that choice. And I can see why you would, because it does feel really weird that you put that with no build-up. In a normal circumstances, I would say that, but it's at the same time, I want to give them credit for trying to give you a better pay-per-view when put in a position where the pay-per-view, the key match on the pay-per-view, it was a one-match show, fell apart. And, and the Bray Wyatt match was still one of the bigger push matches on the show, and that fell apart. And to, give people, AJ Styles versus Finn Balor versus, compared to Bray Wyatt versus Finn Balor, that is an upgrade.
Yes, it is. And this Triple H's first match since WrestleMania, and have we heard anything in the last few hours about who he's going to wrestle?
No, I don't know who's going to wrestle. I don't know what the card's going to be. If he's, I don't even know if he's going to work as a babyface or a heel, although he's going to obviously get cheered like crazy, so probably, I don't know. I don't know who he's going to work with.
All right, so the PWG show tonight, another great show, you said. Take us through the card.
Yeah, so the main event was Chuck Taylor and Ricochet won the championship. And he said he's not going anywhere, but he was a total heel the whole match. Used low blows. Chuck Taylor actually tore the top rope down. They did a thing where Ricochet won the championship at about 17 and a half minutes with a low blow and a belt shot. And then the referee overruled it, and they restarted the match. And you know how usually you restart the match and you go a couple minutes, and then usually the babyface wins, right? So this one, they went like 13 more minutes. And Ricochet won again with a low blow and a bunch of flying moves. Taylor had removed the top rope, so Ricochet could not do any of his top rope moves. So Ricochet did a 450, and he did a shooting star press off the middle rope, which is really hard to do. Because you have a lot less, being a gymnast. I've never seen anyone do those moves off the middle ropes like that. So, but those were near fall moves. They kicked out of everything in the world, pile drivers, gotcha pile driver. Actually, I take it back. It was gotcha pile drivers was someone else. But that, every move in the world was kicked out of. Everybody in the building pretty much was expecting Chuck Taylor to win because when the heel, just normal pattern. And Ricochet finally beat him. And told Chuck Taylor, he goes, we've been friends for 14 years, but get out of my ring, and said that he's everyone thinks I'm going somewhere. I'm going nowhere. This is proof I'm going nowhere. And, the next date they do not have another date announced. They did not announce a date on the show. Usually they do a Mystery Vortex show before the end of the year. But the story I had heard is that the next show would be January 12th. Now, Ricochet's period, before he could sign with WWE would be just a few days after that. So he would be available on that date. Even if he signs with WWE the first day he possibly can, as far as going there and maybe dropping the title. And again, I'm not saying, I don't know 100% that he's going to sign with WWE. I know that it's a good possibility. I mean, the only thing he has said is that he has told, he told The Crash that, after January, he's not going to be able to make any more dates. And I suppose, I suppose that's possible that he could sign with New Japan, because New Japan, a lot of their guys like Kenny Omega, a lot of the ones that are signed can't go to The Crash because of the CMLL deal. So again, like it's possible, And again, I mean, in the end, I think everyone knew that it was going to come down to New Japan or WWE, and I don't know. I just have that feeling that it's going to be WWE. But again, time will tell. And so that was, it was. I know people that, the crowd was going freaking nuts the last couple minutes, and the execution was really good. But a lot of people didn't like the tearing down the top ropes and the restart. And there was a feeling, I think a lot of people thought it was overbooked. But it's like based on crowd reaction. Like, the one thing about overbooked is, if you're in a promotion where you're constantly doing stuff like that, it's overbooked. If you're in a promotion that never does stuff like that and you do it once, it often works. And in this case, it did, because, like I said, the people were going nuts for the last couple of minutes of the match. And I mean, overall, it's Chuck Taylor is very good. Ricochet's one of the best in the world. They were working their asses off. I mean, it's going to be good. And it was. It was a great match. It was a 6-match show because that's just the Travis Banks was not able to be replaced by Brian Cage. I think Brian Cage was booked in Austin, Texas today. So there was a match with Matt Sydal and Ray Horace. That was supposed to be a single, and then Trent Beretta was supposed to wrestle Travis Banks. So with Banks out, they made this a 3-way with Beretta and Ray Horace and Matt Sydal, which Beretta won with the what they call it, the Dude Buster on Matt Sydal. It was a really, every match was good tonight, like last night. But the killer match on the show, pretty much everyone was in agreement. The best match is best match of the weekend. And some said the best match in the history of the promotion. And I would not say the best in the history of the promotion, but I would say this is one of the best matches I've ever seen, top 2 or 3 in the promotion that I've seen. Was Walter and Zack Sabre Jr., which Walter won. And the chops in this match were they were just the most brutal chops. And Walter would bring Sabre into the crowd and put him down in a chair and then just chop poor Zack Sabre. Zack Sabre's chest was so welted up. This was I don't know there's anybody who chops harder than Walter. Now, so some of you, most of you probably have not seen this match, but one of the best matches that I've seen all year outside of Japan was Walter and Ivan Dragunov, which was the finals of the 16-karat gold tournament in Oberhausen, Germany, earlier this year. Just an incredible match. And this match was very similar to that because of, that match was built around hard chops. This match was built around hard chops. I think this match was a better match than that one. And that one, like I said, was off the charts great. This one was as well. But it was just, those chops were just insane. Then let's see what other stuff that we had. We had let me look at this here. We opened with Jonah Rock and oh gosh, so I've seen so much. The Adam Brooks, the other Australian guy. They had a good match. I think it was a little better than Adam Brooks's match the night before. Not nearly as good as Rock's match with Keith Lee, obviously, because that would be very tough to come up with. But Jonah Rock won. Both these guys, fans chanted they wanted Adam Brooks back. Then the second match was the Young Bucks against Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Haskins. Excellent match. Meltzer driver and double sharpshooter was the finish. And they doubled. So they did it. So the match, like they did a lot of, early on, for the first couple of minutes, it was a lot of stuff where the Webster and Haskins did all the stuff that the Young Bucks are not allowed to do, like the Too Sweet, which actually, the Too Sweet is the one that they got the cease and desist on. But the crotch chop they didn't, but they no longer do because they figured, well, we'll probably get a cease and desist on this one, so we'll just stop doing it. So like the whole, so the other guys were doing it, and like the comedy was is that they're doing the Young Bucks stuff, and the Young Bucks can't retaliate by doing it back. And then, it was off to the races with all the big moves and everything like that. And it was good because Webster was able to work more even. He's still much smaller than the Young Bucks, but he was able to work, like when it came to like Brian Cage or some of the other guys that he works with that are much, much bigger, he basically just bounces off of them and things like that. Whereas this one, he got to do a lot more. It was an awesome match. And then Joey Janela and Marty Scurll. Marty Scurll won with a chicken wing after, I believe it was he did something illegal. I think broken finger spot but that was it was Joey Janela was more toned down than he was last night. It was more of a basic match, but still very good. Some people liked it even more than the Joey Janela match from last night. And then the Walter and Sabre, which was just freaking an incredible match. Just freaking great. Walter is, he's like one of those guys where he's just such a great worker. And his offensive stuff looks incredible. He does a lot of really good suplexes, double arm suplex, chokes, a lot of shooter stuff. And then the super hard chops. And he's, I'd say 6'4" or so, maybe even taller, every bit of 310. And, agile as all hell. And it's I don't know, like there's so much like these guys all could go, whether it's New Japan or WWE or Impact, or if somebody else gets going, Ring of Honor. These guys all could go, places like that, and I would think flourish. Walter, like I don't think that WWE would like his look, but again, look isn't it's less important now than it's ever been, and you're still talking about a 310-pound guy who can work like crazy. I'd really like to see him get a shot, but yeah. So that's the deal with that show.
We got two people who have passed away we got to talk about today, Stan Kowalski and Bill Kirsten.
Okay, so Stan Kowalski was also known as the Big K. His real name is Bert Smith. He was a college football player. I think he was a college football star, as I recall. Long time ago. He's in his 90s. So I'll tell a quick story here before I get more into him. But when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame in Waterloo last summer of 2016, they gave Stan Kowalski an award. So it was Stan Kowalski's family and my family. We were sitting at the same table. And Stan, as I recall, was like 8 months older than my father. So it's like, and they both passed away. And, I mean, his health obviously wasn't good, so, he would have been 91 years old, I'm thinking, maybe, I think 91. He was he worked all over the place and, kind of journeyman type of guy. As far as a wrestler goes, known as the Big K and Stan Kowalski were the two names that he was probably best known by. He did a lot of work for charity after he retired from wrestling. I mean, a lot of work. I mean, he was always featured and things like that. So really good guy. As far as like in the AWA, I mean, what I recall, he did a lot of managing. He was a kind of manager wrestler. He was a big guy. But, he was getting up in years, and, I mean, he managed Ivan Koloff when Ivan was at his big AWA run. I think he managed Iron Sheik a couple of years later. And, but, just one of those guys that was always around in the Midwest. Bill Kirsten, TV voice of Central States Wrestling forever, probably 25-year run as the lead announcer, but 40... not quite 40. I'd say maybe 33 years as far as on the TV show between, at first he did the ring announcing and maybe the interviews before he did the play-by-play, eventually doing the play-by-play. And he had his signature call, which was, "Hello, wrestling fans." And, just one of those old guys that was always around as an announcer. I mean, we saw Central States was, as wrestling shows go, it was one of the bottom of the barrel shows. It really wasn't like anything good. The talent wasn't particularly great. But he was your local guy, and he was one of those guys who he came across. I think for those of you, who may remember Boyd Pierce, kind of similar in some ways. I mean, Boyd Pierce was a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Boyd Pierce was a really nice guy. I think Bill Kirsten came across as like a really nice guy as well. But the call, in that area, he was the announcer. I mean, there was nobody else to judge by. So he was the guy. And, for the rest of his life, whenever we'd go out, I mean, it became, in that part of the country, people would go see him and go, "Hello, wrestling fans." He worked as a ticket taker in the movie theater, and he said that people would say that, buy him, they'd come up to him and say that every single day of his life. And so that was, and he was, I think, in his 90s as well. He would always go to Cauliflower Alley with Bob Geigel. They had a Central States, group: Bob Geigel, Roger Kirby, Tom Andrews. Bob passed away a couple of years ago as well. And so I guess these guys, both in their 90s, they would be two of the oldest people remaining, roughly all three, roughly the same age as Lance Russell. And so they'd be some of the oldest people that had survived in the pro wrestling industry. Again, if you grew up in that part of the country, he was there week in and week out on television, the TV, and a lot of those cities did really good numbers. It's not like Memphis numbers or anything like that, but still, it was a fixture and all that. And, you could tell he really liked wrestling. He was around the wrestling business from 1947, probably till, regularly till the end of the 80s when the Central States wrestling territory died. And even when there would be like, independent shows or something like that where, Bill Kirsten would come in and he was around, maybe ring announcing or whatever, still.
Alrighty, the UFC show from this morning from Poland. This was a Fight Pass show, aired early in the morning. And the main event, Darren Till knocked out Donald Cerrone, TKO, 420 of the first round. Broke the hell out of his nose, I believe Donald Cerrone said. And kind of one of those shows where this guy, if this would have been like in the U.S. on a big show, I mean, Darren Till would have been probably a star in one night, but it was on a Fight Pass show from Poland at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I don't know how many people saw it, but Not a lot.
No, but I mean, it was as much as a star-making performance you're going to have. He did beat Cerrone, and he did an angle afterwards with Mike Perry. I would have...
Sure did.
If I was him, I would have probably wanted to challenge the winner of Jorge Masvidal, and Wonderboy Thompson. And I think that with the win over Cerrone, the way he won, he could have made a real case for that. Perry's not nearly as high on the rankings, and Perry is a very dangerous guy because Perry has incredible knockout power. So it's not a guy... I don't know, like, I'm trying to, like, elevate my career, and I'm really good. Perry's kind of like a guy, like, I mean, he's certainly beatable, but it's like if he tags you, he can finish you. So it's not a guy that I would like rush. I'm sure Till, I think he's like 16-0 now with 16-0-1. So he's probably feeling, and coming off this big win that he can win. But Perry's not a guy that I would clamor for. But that's what happened. I don't know. Cerrone didn't really get going. One of the things
was Till looked huge. He looked like he was much bigger than Cerrone, and
he sure was. Yeah, Till looked really big.
Yes, he was very, very big, very wide. He looked like he was in a weight class above Cerrone. And Cerrone
Absolutely.
just couldn't get anything going. He landed a couple of leg kicks. Like, Till's leg was kind of turning a little bit red, but, that was it. And then Till just rocked him, unloaded against the fence. Cerrone turtled up, basically stopped fighting. Ref jumped in and stopped it, but he's a big dude in that division.
Yeah, in welterweight division. He can do something. A guy, again, Till has looked great in the fights I've seen him in, but, you never, there's lots of times where guys will look great against lesser competition, and then when they go against top guys, you start seeing their weaknesses. And, Cerrone could have been that guy, but we didn't see his weaknesses. He didn't, he landed good shots, hurt Cerrone. Once he hurt Cerrone, his finishing instincts were really strong. He went out there to finish. Cerrone, I don't know what it was. It's like once he got hurt, he didn't really, I don't know. He was just, I don't know if it's like, again, I don't know if it's the age thing, and the age is catching up to Cerrone. Not so much age, but, Cerrone's been in so many fights for so many years, and the reality is that, your body only has so much to give. And I know, like, when I was talking last night to some people about this fight, the whole thing, and who thought that Cerrone was going to win because he's just so much more experienced at the top level. And it's like, Cerrone's just been in a lot of fights, and, and also he's not a big welterweight. And when you've been in a lot of fights and you've lost some, and you lost some handily to top people, it's, you just don't know when that time is, and maybe this was the time.
Well, the other thing is, as he noted, he put out that picture on Instagram of his face as he was getting rocked, and, like, his nose was just massacred. It just may have been a situation where, had his nose not been broken, he would have tried to hang on, but probably in tons of pain, maybe couldn't breathe, and, he was done for. 420 of the first round. Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Jody Esquibel. Story here is that Jody came in from Invicta, and Carolina just beat her up for 3 rounds. Second round, 10-8. At least one judge gave it a 10-8, but it was just complete domination in the second. Dominated the first, dominated the second, dominated the third. Tried some submissions.
Was it? Hold on, let me just see.
30-27, 30-27, 30-26.
Was it? Okay.
Yep. 140 to 55 in total shots thrown, so it was very one-sided.
Carolina looked really strong, but Jody Esquibel's very short, so there was that reach advantage and just the overall, she's throwing a lot of good combos and everything. The thing with Carolina is, it's like she's really good, but we've seen her with Joanna, and it's like she just can't beat Joanna, and I don't know that she can beat Claudia Gadelha. She challenged Jessica Andrade, which is a good fight for her to have. Next, I suppose if she can beat Jessica, and Jessica just beat Claudia, she's in that mix. It's she was like the star of the show, because it was in Poland and she's Polish. She's got, very charming, comes across very well, and just a strong performance for her.
We had Jan Blachowicz and Devin Clark. They're out there swinging. Jan, very aggressive first round. And finish was bizarre. They did this brief timeout. Might have been an eye poke or something like that. And when it was restarted, Clark ran at him, and Jan literally just sidestepped him, got behind him, put him in a standing, rear naked, straight choke, and tapped the guy out. And Clark was just furious afterwards. Threw his mouthpiece down. He's going nuts. That was crazy.
Yeah, Clark, I thought Clark won the first round, too. But, a very, popular win and everything like that. Again, it was, again, one of those shows where there was a lot of fun fights. They weren't all fun fights, but there was a lot of fun fights. But marquee star power. I mean, aside from the main event, and Carolina, Carolina's something of a star, especially she was in Poland. But it's just fights. Didn't necessarily mean a lot and everything like that. Devin Clark, it's a big one for him as far as that, and I'm sure he was just ridiculously disappointed with what happened.
And the opener was Oscar Pejoda and Jonathan Wilson, 30-27 across the board, unanimous decision. Pejoda jumped on his back with about 2 minutes left in the first round, tried a standing rear naked, just like the finish of the second fight, but couldn't get it. Held him there throughout the round. And second round kind of sucked. There was a great shot by Pejoda literally 2 seconds before the end of the round. Looked like it could have been a finish, but the ref jumped in and stopped it because the round ended. And then Pejoda took him down halfway through the third, totally out-grappled him from every position. Tried a head and arm choke, tried to mount a triangle, finally an arm bar right before the horn sounded. So, unanimous decision for Pejoda.
Yeah, I had 10-8 first and 10-8 third, but no judges had any 10-8s at all. It was a really one-sided fight, though. Aside from round two, but first and third were very decisive, I thought.
All right, take us through this undercard.
Okay, I didn't see all of the undercard. This was a long day, but Smile and Sam,
who missed weight by 4 pounds.
Yeah, 3, but he was 189. So, but Smile and Sam, so I don't know. I heard he was 40 pounds overweight, and then I heard he was 34 pounds overweight. Not at weigh-ins, but when he went to take the fight, which was a couple of weeks ago. So he cut a lot of weight. He didn't look in his best shape. He lost all 3 rounds to Razman Emeev, and just got tired. You just can't. I think that he made a big mistake. Number one, if you're a 185-pound fighter and you're walking around at 225, I don't know that's necessarily good. But if you are and you think, well, it's my off season, you probably should take a fight on 3 weeks' notice because you're just out there just trying to. That's just so much weight to lose, and that was the story. And he wasn't in his best shape, and he got tired. I mean, I know Alvy's not necessarily a guy, but I mean, Alvy did beat Rashad Evans. I mean, he's not a guy who you think of as like a title contender, but he's kind of a guy, because of the Smile and Sam gimmick, and he does some really good promos that you kind of know more than most mid-level guys, and if at that level, I mean, you would kind of like want to protect your career. And him going into this fight, it was. When you're that much out of shape and it's that hard to cut, you're asking for trouble, and he got trouble. Then we had Bryan Kelleher and Damian Stasiak, and Bryan Kelleher won with series of punches, and it was stopped. And really good, really good fight, back and forth. And Kelleher was winning. He dropped him with a left hook and then a ton of punches on the ground. And then we had Marcin Held and Nasrat Harest. And I don't know how this happened. I have no clue how this happened. But Marcin Held won all 3 rounds, and I didn't even think he won the fight. Although it was one of those fights where you could argue that he won the fight. But second round, I mean, Haqparast like decked him right away. Now, Held did get a takedown. He was on top at the end of the round. He had side control and everything. So, but I just can't see all 3 judges giving Held that round. But Held got it. Held lost to Joe Lozon in a fight that he clearly won. So I guess you could say that like he was due a bad call in his favor, but it was a bad call. Especially like so that was the thing, and it's Poland, Polish fighter. Even so, I don't know. So those are the fights that I saw anyway.
All right, let's do a few of the mailbag questions here. We'll do more tomorrow after the pay-per-view. This person says, Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho seem to be running an angle on Twitter where they are feuding over who is the best wrestler from Winnipeg. My understanding was that Jericho signs short-term contracts for WWE and he's otherwise not held to any type of deal with the company. Could Jericho and Omega be building to a match, possibly as part of Jericho's rock and wrestling cruise that he is running next year?
I mean, yeah, it's possible. I mean, they're bringing Ring of Honor talent on the cruise.
There's a Sea of Honor tournament.
What?
Sea of Honor tournament.
Yeah, I can't see Kenny Omega doing a tournament. I don't know that. I mean, could they do a match on a cruise? I mean, it's possible. I don't I wouldn't expect it, but yeah, I mean, it's possible. Could if Jericho's a free agent, could they be doing something somewhere? I mean, Jericho has always said that he would never wrestle anywhere but WWE. But, people say that and that, they change their minds. Things happen. When I saw some of the stuff that they were doing, I mean, it may just be them doing it just to kind of get a rise out of people. But the way Jericho, it's just the way Jericho's been like pushing that like New Japan is overrated and Kenny Omega's overrated. It almost makes me feel like there's more to the story because, if he believed that, what I just said, and all that he believed that, hey, Japan's overrated, Kenny Omega's overrated. Let's say he believed that. He would be a guy who would be professional enough to not say anything. So when I saw him saying that, my thought was that perhaps he's trying to run his own angle, or maybe, build something for 3 years from now or a year from now or something. I don't know. But, I kind of thought that there was something going on there.
And on a related note, any good stories from the Wrestle Vessel and the Bruise Cruise?
I don't know. Nothing I can think of.
Nothing crazy happened in any of those cruises?
I'm sure there was, but I can't really remember anything specific about that. I mean, it's interesting, Jericho trying to, because wasn't the Bruise Cruise the WCW one where they really were plugging it on TV really hard?
Yes.
Okay, so that has an advantage because, obviously, a lot of people watching Nitro in that era. And Jericho's doing it straight through internet. But I think that there's also, there's more fans who would be willing to do that cruise. So, I think the cruise, who knows? Who knows how the cruise will do? It's uncharted water. It's an interesting concept. Certainly right now when you look at the lineup and everything, it sounds like it's a lot of fun. And maybe that will, maybe it'll work really big.
And finally, this person says, I know WWE can't just give up when they have stockholders to answer to, but in your opinion, would it not have been better if they just gave up on TLC and thrown anyone into Roman's spot instead of rushing Kurt Angle's return with no build?
Yeah, I don't like Kurt Angle's first match back in 11 years in WWE with no build. I
mean, granted he's a heel, but what about Samoa Joe?
Yeah. What about Samoa Joe? And you could always turn him, or you could have him come in as a babyface, and yeah. I mean, but it wouldn't be as big. But I think it might be big enough. It's just I don't know that I don't know Samoa Joe with Rollins and Ambrose. Just it's kind of they accept him that quickly. With Kurt, it's like you would kind of accept him quicker in that spot. So, yeah. I mean, again, I don't know that Joe's cleared yet. It's touch and go. I mean, we're right around the time Joe would be cleared, but I don't know. I don't know the situation there. Kurt's cleared, and I don't know when Kurt was going to do his first match, but he was going to do it. Probably, September, November or December pay-per-views would sound about right. Maybe it was going to be a Mania. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the spot, but maybe because he hasn't done it in so long, they feel that like that would be the most, by putting him there, that's really telling the fans that we're going all out for you and we're trying to make it special and give you like a, again, you're trying to replace Roman Reigns, who is whatever you personally think of Roman Reigns. The reality is that Roman Reigns is one of the most over guys in the company, and he is the most pushed guy in the company. So if you're going to replace him, you need somebody really, really strong name value. And Kurt Angle's first match back in 11 years is really strong, in theory, and probably in fact. So I get why they did it. It's not, I don't know, it's not the optimum way of doing it for sure, but maybe their feeling was that, we're just trying to get through this show and we want to prove to everyone that we're going to give you, we may lose two key people in the show, very key people, but we're going to give you, something. So when you're losing something special, the Shield reunion, we're going to give you something special, Kurt Angle's first match, and it's kind of like a make good to the fans type of thing.
All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to wrap it up here for today. This is the second show. We did a Friday show as well. We'll be back after the TLC show and after Raw on Monday as well. I'll be up tomorrow with Observer Live, Bryan and Vinny Show, and Wrestling Observer Radio. So lots of stuff coming up tomorrow. Check out the front page for more. And that is it. We'll talk to you again after a while.